Caitlyn Clark said nothing, and that was the problem for Kelsey Plum. One press conference, one careless sentence. And just like that, the most watched player in the WNBA became the target of the most public blindside the league has ever seen. Kelsey Plum thought she had the upper hand. She was wrong, because what Clark did next didn't just flip the script. It exposed everything Plum was trying to hide. The footage is out, the reactions are real, and the truth behind that all-star moment is far darker than anyone reported. Stay with us, because what we're about to reveal will change how you see this entire situation. The shot no one saw coming. Caitlyn Clark was supposed to be invisible that weekend. She couldn't play. Her name wasn't supposed to come up. The WNBA All-Star Game was meant to be about the players who showed up, and over the ones who were healthy and ready to compete. That was the plan. But plans have a funny way of falling apart. Caitlyn Clark, the most talked about player in the WNBA today.
Here comes Clark. How will she go for history?
Didn't just sit quietly on the sidelines. Without even being in the building, she somehow became the center of everything. And the reason for that? Kelsey Plum decided to open her mouth at exactly the wrong moment. At the All-Star post-game press conference, a moment supposed to be about unity, about celebration, Kelsey Plum casually dropped a comment that changed everything. She was talking about the black t-shirts that All-Star players wore during the game. The shirts read, "Pay us what you owe us." A bold statement, no question. Players from rival teams, different backgrounds, different cities, all standing together, wearing the same message. It was supposed to be a powerful moment of solidarity. And then Kelsey Plum said this, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that.
You know, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that.
5 seconds. That's all it took. 5 seconds to shatter the whole message those shirts were supposed to carry. The room went quiet. Cameras caught everything. Sabrina Ionescu, sitting right next to Plum, visibly reacted with her eyes. Her face said the same thing. This was a mistake, a bad one. Here is what makes this even more interesting. That morning meeting, the one where players planned the shirt protest, happened without Clark's teammates being told. Nobody reached out to them. Nobody from WNBA leadership, not even the organizers of the protest, made sure Team Clark knew what was coming. Those players walked into the arena with smiles, completely unaware that something had already been decided without them. Think about that for a second. The league's biggest draw, the player who single-handedly moved the needle on WNBA ratings, attendance, and TV deals, and her team wasn't even part of the conversation. Was that an accident? Or was it exactly what it looked like? The internet didn't wait long to make up its mind. Within hours, Plum's comment was everywhere, and the reaction wasn't what she expected. Now here's what nobody slowed down enough to explain properly. The protest itself, the shirts, and the message were planned in a private meeting held the same morning as the All-Star Game. Players gathered, decided on the shirts, agreed on the statement, and coordinated everything before tip-off. It wasn't a spontaneous moment. It was organized, deliberate. And by Plum's own words, it was described as a powerful decision made by players who were in that room together. The problem isn't that the meeting happened. The problem is who wasn't invited to it. Indiana Fever players, Clark's teammates, walked into that arena the same way everyone else did. They saw the shirts when they got to their lockers. No heads up, no text, no early morning call saying, "Hey, here's what we're doing today. Are you in?" Nothing. They found out the same way the fans did after the fact. Now think about what that actually communicates. Not what anyone says, it communicates what it actually does. When you organize a league-wide statement and deliberately leave out one specific team, you're not just forgetting to send an invite. You're drawing a line. You're saying, without using those exact words, it's that this circle doesn't include you. And the player whose name is on that team, she's the one bringing in the biggest audience this league has ever seen. Kelsey Plum calling out Team Clark at the press conference wasn't just a bad joke, it was confirmation. It confirmed what a lot of people had already suspected. That inside the WNBA, there's a tension simmering beneath all the talk of sisterhood and solidarity. A tension between the players who have been fighting for years to get this league taken seriously and the one player who showed up and got it taken seriously almost overnight without anyone's permission. That's a hard thing to sit with, and some people clearly aren't sitting with it well. Because here's the part that gets glossed over in most coverage of this story. Plum didn't stumble into that comment, and she said not to tattletale right before saying it. That phrase is not something you accidentally use. You use it when you know what you're about to say is going to land like a grenade, and you say it anyway. That's not a slip. That's a choice. Sabrina Ionescu saw it immediately. Her reaction in that moment wasn't surprise. It was more like recognition, the look of someone watching something go wrong in slow motion and knowing there's nothing they can do to stop it.
I would say first and foremost, the mission was accomplished because we built an incredible amount of awareness.
She didn't jump in. She didn't try to redirect the conversation. She just sat there, let it play out, and her face did all the talking that needed to be done. By the time the press conference ended, the damage was already done. The shirts, which should have been the story, were buried. The pay equity message, which deserved real, serious conversation, was drowned out. The narrative had shifted completely. And right in the middle of it, sitting at home, watching all of this unfold from a distance, was Caitlyn Clark. She hadn't said a word yet, but she was already watching, and she was already thinking. When the room turned, there is a difference between calling someone out and throwing someone under the bus. One takes courage, the other just takes carelessness. What Kelsey Plum did at that press conference, she might have meant it as a joke. She even said afterward that she was just trying to lighten the mood. But the room didn't laugh, and neither did the internet. Social media exploded, but not in Plum's favor. Fans who had been supportive of the pay equity movement turned on the moment instantly. The message that was supposed to unite the league became a flashpoint for division, and Kelsey Plum's name was right in the center of it. Here is why the backlash hit so hard. Clark wasn't there. She was injured. She couldn't defend herself. She wasn't at the press conference. She wasn't on the court. She couldn't say a word in that moment. And yet she got called out publicly in front of cameras by a player who knew exactly what she was doing. Fans called it what it was, a blindside, and not just any blindside, a calculated one. Sabrina Ionescu's reaction became one of the most shared clips from that press conference. She didn't say anything out loud. She didn't need to. Her face said it all. She knew the second those words left Plum's mouth that this was about to go sideways, real fast. And here is the part that really gets people talking. Kelsey Plum has been in this league for years. She is not naive.
Kelsey Plum, first ever, not just Husky, but Pac-12 player in 23 seasons.
She knows how media cycles work. She knows what cameras do with a throwaway line at a press conference. So when she said, not to tattletale, that framing alone tells you something. You don't say not to tattletale before you say something innocent. That phrase exists to soften a jab, and everyone in that room knew it. What made the fallout worse was the timing. The WNBA had been building real momentum, better TV deals, more fans, bigger crowds, and a lot of that momentum had Caitlyn Clark's name written all over it. This was not the moment to create a public divide, and yet here we were. The league tried to move on. Plum tried to laugh it off, but the internet had already made its decision, and once the internet makes its decision, it doesn't unmake it. Within 24 hours, the clips were everywhere, not just the sports pages, on entertainment pages, general news. People who had never watched a WNBA game in their lives were suddenly watching that press conference clip on repeat. Reading the comments, picking sides, Kelsey Plum's name was trending, but not in the way any athlete wants to trend. The comment sections told the whole story. Thousands of people, many of them women, many of them people who had been rooting for the pay equity movement, saying the same thing. This was the wrong move, at the wrong time, aimed at the wrong person. Because here's what Plum didn't calculate. Clark's fan base is not a casual group. These are people who followed her from college, who watched every Iowa game, who showed up to WNBA arenas for the first time in their lives just to see her play. They are loud, they are loyal, and they were not going to let a press conference jab slide without a response. The backlash came fast and it came hard. And what made it sting more for Plum was that it didn't just come from Clark fans. It came from neutral observers, sports journalists, former players, people who had no horse in this race but looked at that moment and said, that wasn't it. One thing kept coming up in all the commentary: the optics. Plum is healthy, playing in the All-Star game, sharing a stage with the best players in the league, and she used that platform to call out a player who was sitting at home with an injury. That's not a fair fight, and people recognized it. Plum later tried to reframe the comment, said it was lighthearted, said she wasn't trying to start anything. But that explanation created its own problem, because if the comment was harmless, why did the room go quiet? Why did Sabrina Ionescu's face drop? Why did every person in that press conference suddenly look like they wanted to be somewhere else? You can't explain away a room's reaction. Rooms don't lie. The WNBA's PR team had a mess on its hands. A weekend meant to showcase the league's growth had turned into a national conversation about internal division. The shirts, the message, the solidarity, all of it got swallowed by one sentence that probably took 3 seconds to say and created weeks of fallout. And somewhere in all of that noise, Caitlyn Clark was still silent, still watching, still waiting for the right moment. 6 words that ended the argument. Caitlyn Clark didn't call a press conference. She didn't post a long statement. She didn't go on social media to rant or clap back in the way most people would. She wrote 6 words. Kelsey Plum posted a photo from All-Star Weekend on Instagram, probably expecting the usual support, maybe some hype about the shirts and the pay equity message. Instead, Clark commented under the post, "Just this. Thank you for the Nike ad." That's it. Nothing more. For anyone who didn't catch the layers in that comment, here's what makes it so sharp. Under Armour sponsors Kelsey Plum. Caitlyn Clark wears Nike. So when Plum posted a photo that included Clark in Nike gear, she accidentally turned her own Instagram post into a free advertisement for her biggest competitor's brand. Clark just pointed that out, calmly, publicly, without raising her voice. The internet absolutely lost it. It wasn't just funny, it was precise. It was the kind of response that only works when you know your position is strong enough that you don't need to fight. Clark didn't argue about the press conference. She didn't address the tattletale comment. She didn't try to explain why her team missed the morning meeting. She just redirected the entire conversation and walked away holding the moment. People who study social dynamics call it the textbook. People who are fans of Clark called it iconic. Even people who weren't on her side had to admit that was a clean move. But what's really going on underneath this? Why did that comment land so differently than anything Plum said? Because it came with zero desperation. Clark didn't need the moment. She didn't need to win the press conference. She was already winning by not being part of the drama. And then she just reminded everyone of that with a single line. That's a very different kind of power than shouting into a microphone. The numbers don't lie here is where the story gets uncomfortable for some people, but the data doesn't care about feelings. When it was announced that Caitlyn Clark would not play in the All-Star game due to her groin injury,
and Clark is slow to get to her feet.
Ticket prices dropped by 50%, not 5%, not 15, 50. Half the value is gone the moment one player's name is removed from the lineup. You can argue about fairness all you want. You can talk about team effort and collective success, and all of that is valid in its own context. But those numbers exist in reality. Ticket prices are set by what people are willing to pay, and the market answered that question very clearly. This wasn't just one event. Clark's presence consistently moved numbers throughout her first WNBA season. Attendance records, TV ratings, jersey sales, merchandise revenue, streaming numbers. Every metric that teams and leagues use to measure success, they all told the same story. Retired NBA legends took notice. Several well-known former champions weighed in publicly on the All-Star drama, specifically on Plum's comment and the overall treatment of Clark during the weekend. When players who have won at the highest level start calling something out as embarrassing, it tends to get people's attention. Their message was pretty direct. You protect a player who is growing your league. You don't pick fights with the person who is filling the seats. And this is the uncomfortable contradiction that keeps surfacing in this story. And the pay equity shirt said, "Pay us what you owe us." But the question a lot of fans started asking after the All-Star drama was simple. Who is generating that money in the first place? You can't call out the one player bringing in record revenue and then also demand a bigger share of that revenue in the same weekend. That's not a message of unity. That's a contradiction, and the public noticed. The WNBA has real structural issues that deserve serious attention. Equal pay in sports is a conversation worth having, but when the messenger becomes the problem, when the way a point is made overshadows the point itself, then the message gets lost. And that's exactly what happened here. Plum's comment didn't hurt Clark. It hurt the message the shirts were supposed to carry. What this really exposed, pull back from the drama for a second. She did look at what this whole situation actually revealed. It's not just about Kelsey Plum and Caitlyn Clark. It's not just about one comment at a press conference or one Instagram reply. Players who have been in the WNBA for years, fighting for visibility, fighting for better pay, fighting for respect, and then a rookie walks in and changes the entire conversation almost overnight. That creates friction. Human nature creates friction. And no amount of unity shirts fixes that friction if nobody is willing to talk about it honestly. Kelsey Plum's comment, whether it was meant as a joke or not, cracked that tension wide open. And Clark's response showed exactly why she is operating at a different level. Not because she's better at basketball right now, but because she understands the game beyond the court. She knows what she represents. She knows what her numbers mean, and she knows that silence, used correctly, hits harder than any argument. Stephanie White, Clark's head coach at the time, was asked about the situation. Her response was measured and professional.
Stephanie White has been named the head coach of the Indiana Fever this morning. White, who spent the last 2 seasons with the Connecticut Sun, is an Indiana native.
She said Clark was progressing from her injury, and she didn't expect her to be available for the next scheduled game against the New York Liberty. The focus, she made clear, was on getting Clark healthy, not on press conference politics. That's leadership. That's keeping the main thing the main thing. Meanwhile, Plum's original message, the pay equity statement, got buried under a news cycle about a tattletale comment. The shirts meant something. The moment meant something. But one careless sentence turned a statement about the league's future into a story about middle school drama. And what does Clark do with all of this? She keeps playing. She keeps working. She keeps stacking endorsements, building her brand, drawing attention to women's basketball in a way the league has never seen. While everyone else was fighting over the weekend's narrative, she was already moving to the next thing. There is a lesson in this story, not just about sports, but about how you respond when someone comes at you publicly. You can argue back and give them the fight they're looking for, or you can do what Clark did. 6 words. Let them hand you the moment and walk away. At the end of all of this, one thing is clear. Caitlyn Clark didn't have to say much, and that's exactly the point. The numbers speak, the reactions speak, the ticket prices and ratings speak. And when she finally did say something, 6 words were enough to take over the whole conversation. Kelsey Plum walked into that press conference thinking she had the upper hand. She didn't walk out that way. The footage is out there. The truth is on the table. And the WNBA is going to have to figure out fast whether it wants to keep biting the hand that's feeding it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story deserves more eyes, share it.